If they're overseas, then that gives you access to other specialist skills that just can't find here or you can't afford here. Or, in depending on the country, like it can bring the cost down considerably, right? And you can still pay, what would be a really, a fair livable wage for where they are. I've kind of done the whole digital nomad thing in the past. So the idea of working with teams and with different people in, different parts of the world is like, that doesn't really faze me too much. Like I know some of the challenges. I've seen some of them before. I've overcome some of them before. Some of them I haven't, but I know enough now that I feel pretty confident I could. And so I thought we'd give this a try. And so, worked with it. It really helped that the developers, so I have now sort of these 4.5 developers. I say half because there's one person on a part-time basis. Okay. These 4.5 developers in Buenos Aires. I did have a lot of concerns going in. So some of it was just general, communication. Like, look, how good is their English, right? Because to be honest, my Spanish is even worse than my English. It's like, will we be able to communicate? Also time zone. Will that work? Are they going to maintain a schedule? How do we do that? And also the most critical thing was, I really want it to feel like there's one team, right? I mean, by necessity, there'll be 2 squads. There has to be, like, there's no way. But I don't want it to feel like we have 2 siloed teams that just kind of, meet in the mornings / evenings for stand-ups. Like I want it to feel like one team. I want cross-training. So that was like my concerns going into it. And so what I would say, some of the things that really helped with that are, one, the team, the squad in Argentina, like they're a team, like they've been working together for years. They already know each other. They know how to work together. They communicate really well. Like they understand, they can communicate technical concepts. And when the senior dev is talking architecture, like they know where he's coming from because they've done this stuff before. And so then I kind of had to trust that there would be really good overlap. And fortunately, this group, like they really, really do get along really well. Like they are comfortable talking to each other. When one of the devs here gets stuck, they can reach out to one of the devs over there and vice versa. And it's like, that works really well. Their English is quite good. There's no problems with that. Like communication's no problem. It's not the same as having, the whole team in one place, right? If they're overseas, then that gives you access to other specialist skills that just can't find here or you can't afford here. Or, depending on the country, like it can bring the cost down considerably, right? And you can still pay, what would be a really, a fair livable wage for where they are. Right. And that also helps a lot, right? So it may be that if you're concerned about getting coverage, right, you can bring in 2 seniors to help sort of act as the multipliers for your intermediates and juniors, right? If for perhaps the same cost or maybe less. I don't think that if I just had a team in Argentina that I was just outsourcing the work to, I don't think this project would have gone nearly as well as if I had developers here that I could kind of, interact with face to face and kind of sort of by proxy then talk to the entire team. Obviously I do calls with devs in Argentina as well, and we maintain a good relationship, but like I don't think the results would have been nearly as good if everything was just happening offshore. And I didn't have anything that was kind of just happening here, where it just, it was just more real and I could get more more real-time feedback on things.
What would be the one thing that's must to be done when it comes to management, to leading the team? Because you can have a team here working together with a team in this case Argentina or anywhere in the world. What needs to be done in order to make them work together as a team?
I don't think I have the answer to that one yet. What I do know is for this team, so for the senior dev already was used to working with developers of all skill levels, which really helped a lot, right? So we have senior and a half, we have 2 intermediates, a junior over in Buenos Aires, and like that's like they are all used to working together. So right off the bat, you have a senior who is used to and knows how to support developers of all skill levels. And I think also just I tried really, really hard to get them talking as much as possible. So I put a lot of effort in up front to make sure that everyone just kind of knew who each other was, to introduce one another, and also just kind of check in on things. So just making sure, at the end of our first sprint, we delivered a functional increment at the end of our first sprint. Teams in 2 countries we built the initial infrastructure, and look, there's a lot of functionality missing, but you could point to that and say, yeah, that's like the essence of the thing that I want. right? That's the essence of the app that we're trying to build. And at the end of that, so it was like, wow, this is going really well. We felt like we had to upskill in a lot of stuff really fast, and it was all kind of happening without our input. And so we were kind of just getting sort of siloed into like more just of a testing role, right? And as a team, we discussed that. Look, stuff happens. It's not that you don't want there not to be problems. Actually, if anything, problems are good usually, because problems kind of make people grow and learn, right? And change. And so we discussed it, and we came up with ways as a team. Like, honestly, I had very little to do with it. I just facilitated. Like, I'm like,
no, but it's like you are there making them talk between them.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I got everybody in the room. That was my
But that's a lot. I guess that don't think that's going to work well just by putting them to work together. It's like you still need to make sure that they are working together.
Sure. Yeah, totally. And so sure enough, in that retrospective, like, yeah, they had some really good, healthy conversation. Obviously the devs, as with this, in a lot of cases, when you have conflict, like the devs in Buenos Aires, like, we're really sorry. We didn't realize that that's what was happening. How can we improve it? When you're making architecture discussions, maybe you could also include us. And when we're doing we want code review, like, we need to figure out how to get more like quicker feedback, right? Don't just sort of review your own code, like try to review code from the other squad. So they came together. And of course, me just knowing how some of these things work, I was able to just kind of like, actually, that's not a bad idea. We did that with another team. It worked really well. That's interesting. Maybe let's find some ways to make that right. And it's all experimentation. So we were like, let's try this. So I captured all the sort of outcomes as action items, and we're going to try this for this sprint, for this upcoming sprint. And then in the retro, let's just go back and say, so we were going to try these things. Did it work? Right. In a few cases, sometimes even just, one-to-one with the devs, I'm just like, hey, so how are you feeling? Do you feel like you're now getting to participate more? Are there things we can do differently? But yeah, like, you're not going to get it perfect from the beginning. No team is going to get it perfect from the beginning. And the challenges there are kind of the same as the challenges with a team that's all in one place, is really just making sure they're all talking, and that if there are problems, that they can kind of emerge in a healthy way, or in a safe, in a safe context.